What is up, guys, and welcome back to the channel. And today we're going to be going through 5 ways that you can get an edge on Sorare and beat the competition. With the latest changes on Sorare, I believe it's going to be more competitive than ever. So trying to get a little edge over the competition could be really crucial. And before we get into the video, guys, please make sure to like and subscribe. And if you've got any questions, please let me know down in the comments. And let's get into the video. So the first way that I think you can get an advantage over other competitors is by doing the simple stuff and avoiding those DMPs. Obviously, DMPs kill your lineups, and with Sorare being so competitive, especially moving forwards in those classic competitions, one DMP is basically going to kill your whole lineup. So trying to avoid that as much as possible is really, really crucial. For me personally, I use 4 main resources. The first one is Sorare data. If you've got a membership here, if you hover over the little badge here underneath the player, you can see the community projections and how many people have actually done those lineups. This gives you the start of a little bit of information in terms of, is that player going to start? Is there some doubt? Is he perhaps a rotation risk? Is he suspended? For instance, here on my goalkeeper, Lucas Gortbayer, he has recently come in for Bondman, and the manager is giving him a chance to actually prove himself. So there's a little bit of doubt here whether he's actually going to carry on being the number 1 when the Bondman comes back in. So you can see that 78% of people think that he's going to start out of 23 predictions. 4% aren't sure, and then 17% on the bench. So he's more likely to start than not. However, he is a little bit of a risk, and that obviously then factors into where I actually play him. For me personally, this is a good enough number to actually play him in cap 270. If it was like 50-50, perhaps I move him out and play him in like a cap 220, for instance, where it isn't as crucial and you can't win those big cards. Second resource that I use is Play Sharper. You can actually connect your Sorare account to Play Sharper, which just means that you can get some more information on your players. If you go onto the tools section here and then go onto Sorare, go onto expected scores, it will bring up this screen here. And this gives you a little bit more information about the starter prediction here. If you click on show my players only, get rid of common, it will bring up all those players. You can see here Gonzalez has a 95% chance to start in this home game. Click 95, Holtby 90, etc, etc. And also, obviously, if you go onto the games, we'll pick the game coming up. Let's do this Luton Town one, as that's got a lineup here. You can obviously see here all of the players that the expert expects to start. The little number up here showing the chance of them starting, and then on the right hand side there is the comment section where you can see comments that everyone else has left, and sometimes the expert will put a little bit of information in there about why he's picked certain players. The next resource that I use is Twitter, and I use it in 2 main ways. First of all, the search function is quite useful. One of my players is out currently is Guido Bergstaller. He is unfortunately banned for I believe it's homophobic chanting, and you can see obviously searching his name here brings up some articles from Sky Sports Austria. If you click on there, you can also translate that, which then gives you a little bit of information here about how the boss has obviously excluded those players based on those homophobic chants. And the second way which I use Twitter is to actually follow experts. If I scroll through here, may actually see some sorry, this guy, for instance, an expert in the Pro League. Well, not an expert, but someone has a little bit more information than what I do. If we carry on scrolling down, there's obviously people that have some more information on the MLS here. Sorare, Brazil. So all of these leagues that I don't really have as much information on them. I try and follow as many people from that region as possible, and just get as much information about my cards and what they're doing for the upcoming game week. And then the last resource that I use, and probably the most boring, is Google. If you go onto the news tab here, search in your player's name, it brings up all of the latest articles on that player. You see here that I searched for Guido Bergstaller, and yeah, there's a few articles recently about how he's been banned following these chants. So yeah, if you use all of those 4 resources, try and get as much information about all of your players as possible. It just decreases the chance of those DMPs, and that may be the difference from you setting a lineup which wins something to a lineup which obviously fails. And if you're able to catch some news very, very late as well, that may give you the edge over someone that's playing that player and doesn't realize that he's suspended, banned, injured, or ill, for instance. So yeah, just having that little bit more information really just help to get rid of those DMPs and just make sure that all of those lineups have as much chance of 5 players starting as possible. Okay, so the second way which I think you can get an edge over other Sorare players is to maximize the training for your Sorare cards, especially in classic competitions. They're going to be extremely competitive. Obviously, they're all going to be old season cards. Mainly, people are going to have those cards for a longer period of time. So there's going to be some higher experience cards in there. So training those cards up to the max level is going to be very, very crucial. If we have a look here, I've got a few players that are actually quite close to being max level. Harriman's is max here. He is level 20. Johnson's level 18. Corey Baird's level 16. These are cards I've owned for quite a long time. And yeah, it's really about trying to maximize that as much as possible. So some top tips there: try not to miss any game weeks, even when you don't have cards playing. Still enter those training teams. Obviously, when a card has reached max level, you can then stop training them. If you're obviously still putting that card in a training lineup at its max level, that's taking the spot of a card which obviously needs that training more. You can then obviously focus on some cards which are really crucial to your gallery and strategy moving forwards. For instance, when the European season is playing and the MLS season isn't, you can then train up those MLS season cards ready for when the new season starts. And obviously that means that your European cards are getting experience points from obviously playing, etc. And then those MLS cards are then training in the background. Then when those seasons swap, you can then swap that round and obviously use the MLS cards and then train up the ones from Europe. But overall, it's just key to obviously keep on training those cards as much as possible and getting up into those higher sort of 9-10% ranges is going to be very, very crucial for you. Classic is going to be very, very competitive, and there's going to be a lot of cards on high experience, so maximizing that can help you to obviously get an edge over other Sorare players. The third way which I think you can really get an edge over other Sorare players is to focus on playing what you know. I'm going to use this Saints team as an example. Obviously, if you've watched my content before, you'll know that I'm a Southampton fan. I follow a lot of the pages which get information about players that are injured. Obviously, being a fan, I keep an eye on things anyway. I watch all of the games. I know how these players play, and most importantly, I know what players are injured, when their last game was, are they going to rotate. So just understanding the cards that you have and playing in a region which you know is just a really, really big boost. Especially as I mentioned with the training in those classic competitions, it's going to be an absolute bloodbath. So having as much information as possible and having a little bit of a knowledge edge is really going to help you. I knew all of these players were basically guaranteed starts. I knew that obviously this was a good fixture for Saints at home against Sheffield Wednesday. I knew that Wednesday were down the bottom, don't really score many goals away from home. Saints are much better at home. I knew that obviously the keeper would start, Walker Peters and Harwood Bellis would be in the back line, and then Downs in midfield and Adam Armstrong up front. And I know that Walker Peters scores well when he's playing at home, and he was a very, very good captain for this game week. Excuse me. So yeah, having a little bit of knowledge about your gallery and playing in a region which you know, perhaps stacking a team which you support will just help you to get that little bit of a edge over people that are perhaps just using cards that they've seen on Sorare data or Twitter and don't really have that much information about. So the fourth way that I think you can get an edge over other Sorare players is to have a look at your gallery and your cards and see, in terms of your key players and in terms of collections, see if you can get a little bit more bonus for as little money spent as possible. I'm going to take a collection which I don't have that many cards of, but we have two players I'm going to be using moving forward. We have Corey Baird, who's a jersey mint, and then Griffin Dorsey, both from the 2023 Houston Dynamo collection. And there's going to be some players in here which are very, very cheap and perhaps can boost us up to that 2% range. And it may not seem like a lot overall, but with a lot of competitions going to be very, very competitive, that 1% bonus could be very, very crucial, especially if you use this for some important cards in your gallery. If you've got some really key, like 3-4 pieces that can get an extra 1% bonus for a little bit of money spent, then I think personally it's worthwhile. Excuse me. So in terms of this collection here, you can see instantly there's some players here for £2. So that's £2.74 on Brad Smith, the same on Bartlow, the same on Steres, £4 here on Sviatchenko. If you have a little look down, Franco here is £4, £9 here on Brooklyn Reigns, £9 on Tate Schmidt, £3 on All Farson. So that's probably what, like £30 overall for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 players there, and that will obviously help me to then get over that 2% bonus. And yeah, as I mentioned, if they're really, really key pieces, say for instance you've got 5 cards that are absolute smashers for you, and you can spend, I don't know, £100 overall, but it gets those 5 cards an extra 1% bonus. For me personally, I think that's a good move overall, and I think it's quite smart. And at the top of any sort of competition, 1 to 5 points could be 10 places, and that could be the difference between winning a tier 2 or a really good tier, like high-end tier 1 card. So I think just getting that little bit more collection bonus overall could be very, very crucial, especially if you can do it in a cost-effective way. And the last way I think you can get an edge over other Sorare players is to try and find value where everyone else is focusing on something different. And I'm going to use an example of the MLS recently. Obviously, the MLS season has just started. Those cards have a lot of utility moving forwards. The prize pools have just been announced, and we've just had the MLS weekly specials, which have a lot of cash in them as well. And if you look at Click here, who's had quite a good start to the season, if we have a look at his scores, when does the season start here? A 51, an 83, and a 55. He's getting some nice AA, took the penalty against Timbers, and DC looked good overall, so quite a good card. If we have a look at the price difference in limited and rare, the circles here are old seasons, the triangles are all the auctions for the new seasons. There's a huge difference. If we look here, £10 the most recent sell for the old season, £34 as an instant buy for an in-season, so like 3.5 times the value. Now that could obviously pay off for, who was this here, Spoon02. He could, for instance, go and win one of those special weekly competitions, win like $1,000 or whatever the max prize is, and that obviously works out well. But for 99 out of 100 people, buying these cards here at these high prices are probably not going to pay off. However, buying Click for £10 down here, playing the classic competitions when everyone's obviously hyper focused on all of these in-season cards, seems like the smarter move for me personally. So yeah, I would say try and find value in areas where no one else is obviously looking on. You often hear the expression zig when they zag, and I think that links into my point quite well. Obviously, currently, a lot of focus on these in-season MLS cards. For me personally, I would try and focus down here where the price is cheaper, means that overall you keep your costs down, and those classic competitions are still great. You can still win those in-season cards, sell them, or you can use those classic competitions to then build into those in-season competitions at a later date. So yeah, just try and find value when everyone else is focusing on hype and just panicking, really. Just a recap of those 5 points. First of all, try and avoid DMPs as much as possible. Secondly, really focus on training and trying to get your players leveled up as much as you can. Third of all, try and play what you know, so focus on teams or league that you have a little bit more information on. Fourth, collection bonus. If you can, find those really key players for your gallery. See if they've got some cheap options in there, which can obviously boost up your collection score and give you that little bit of an edge. And then last of all, as we just talked over with Click, is to obviously focus on value when other people are focusing on different areas and different competitions. And I believe that by doing those 5 things, you can really start to give yourself an edge over other Sorare players. And like I mentioned earlier, that can be the difference between, you know, a 10th place and a 3rd place, which can make a difference to the amount of ETH that you win and obviously the cards that you win as well. So it is really crucial to try and get any edge where you can. Okay, that's going to be the end of today's video, guys. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And if you've got any questions, please let me know down in the comments. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.